up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are radio for the local craft beer movement. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing in Marietta, Georgia. I'm Tim Dennis.
And I'm Brian Hewitt. This week we're talking with Justin Schoendorf, founder of Atlanta, Georgia's Monk's Meadery. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you coming and joining us, and we're sipping on a little your mead right now.
Indeed.
And we'll actually talk more about that. That's the whole plan of this program.
Absolutely.
We're Mead Guys Radio this week,
Mead
Justin.
Guys Radio.
I like to hear it.
Good
Converting
stuff.
beer drinkers.
Absolutely. One at a time, right?
That's the way we do it.
Good
One
deal.
at a time.
So, Brian, another busy beer week.
Yes.
Right? We're in the middle of right now what they're calling Georgia Beer Fortnight.
That's right.
It's a whole fortnight celebrating Georgia beer, 2 weeks, going all across the state, focusing on different areas of the Atlanta, neighborhoods in Atlanta, over to Athens, Savannah. It's all about Georgia beer.
That's right.
So we got all up in some of those festivities this past weekend. Went to a wrecking bar. They did the first bottle release of Mexican Siberius Maximus,
Indeed.
which is their Mexican Imperial Stout that they've served on the 5th of each month, dubbing it Cinco de Siberius.
Cinco de Siberius, yes.
And this is the first time it's ever been released in bottles. They did a festival, had, I think, 30 different Georgia breweries there, some really nice food, a whole pig roast,
Yes, they
Brian.
did. Yeah.
And a lot of great beers. So, and they said that they're modeling after Tampa's Hunapoo's Day, Cigar City's Hunapoo's Day. So this will be an annual event that they hope to get bigger and bigger. Also went over to New Realm.
Yes.
We checked out New Realm. That's right. We had some other great food. We drank their Pilsners, and I enjoyed their rye barrel-aged triple reserve.
Yeah. It's the
festival.
Rye Barrel Aged Triple Reserve. They had a little sneak peek of that. I guess that was the idea this weekend.
Yeah, it was really good. So, Brian, we kind of hung the same joints most of this week, but what were some of your highlights for that?
Well, going to the wrecking bar, that Siberian Unicorn number 6, that was the coffee, the chocolate, the rum, and the bourbon barrels. that to me was the finest thing I had probably that entire weekend.
Yeah, that was really good.
I really enjoyed that. I went over to Sweetwater to check out a little industry preview of some things. They had the release of the packaging of 420 Strain G13. That's always fun to drink. I like that a great deal.
It sticks with you for a while.
Yes, it does.
Those extra flavors they add will hang in your burps.
That's
a
right.
little bit, so.
Yes, you get to enjoy it at least twice,
Yes,
maybe
at
3
least,
or 4
right.
times. Yes. They had a Mosaic single hop hazy IPA that was really good. Really impressive with that. And the thing I was really looking forward to was that Exodus Jamaican Coffee Porter. Man, I love that Exodus
That
porter.
was good. And the thing that I've said several times, it's been gone for a few years. So when it comes back, you kind of wonder, will this be the same beer? But unmistakably, when you drink that, it's still the same old Exodus porter, just a little more coffee. They didn't go heavy-handed with the coffee, so it's pretty smooth
They
there.
could have even gone higher with it, but really it was probably more sane and more balanced and more
It was.
enjoyable for more people. I would
Super
have loved
drinkable.
it if,
Crushable porter,
yes,
Brian.
crushable porter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had some interesting stuff. I had a Highwire Horchata 10W40 Imperial Stout. I just wanted to throw that out there because I saw that can when I was making my rounds, and I'm like, I have to try that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and how'd that work out for you?
It was good. It was good. I don't know horchata, but I really liked it. So that was that's
Isn't
from
that like
Highwire.
a spiced rice beverage? Or
I think so, like cinnamon and cinnamon
Nutmeg,
and milk,
cinnamon,
and-
sugar, milk.
Yeah. It's very popular, I think, in the Southwest.
Is it?
I
Okay.
think. I don't know.
How far southwest?
I don't know. Right down into Ecuador.
Okay. All right. So, Justin, you get into anything interesting this week?
This past weekend, I was down at a buddy's property. He's got a bunch of hunting land, and we dropped 2 trees and we turned that into a little walking bridge.
Okay, cool. So you worked it. That was what you got into, huh?
We worked, but we drank a lot of beer.
Okay. Some mead.
We drank a little mead. We drank a little beer.
Drink
It was,
a little mead, drink a little
Yeah.
beer, knock down some trees.
just the usual, hunting camp projects that you got to put together.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So were you hunting for meat and beer? Because it sounds like it was successful.
We definitely found plenty of that, and definitely some whiskey. But we were getting things prepped for deer season.
For this season there, right?
Yep.
Good deal. Awesome.
All right, Tim, I think it's time for Truck and Tap's Beers of the Week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Brian, as always, we've got a good selection. Of course, we're going to get into some Monk's Mead. We did a little pre-gaming with one new release, a seasonal release from Creature Comforts, which was their automatic pale ale, which comes out once a year, is just hit recently. I think this is the best version of this, in my opinion.
It's
this
very
is really
good.
nice, really good stuff. So we're going to get into more of that, and we're sampling some Monk's Mead right now. Is this your base mead, Justin?
This is our regular. This is our first love. This is the thing that we actually created many years ago, and it is 12% alcohol, and it's only basically 2 ingredients. It's honey and water that's been fermented.
That's it. That's pretty simple. You want something basic, simple ingredients that you can pronounce. Honey and water are about as basic as you can go, right?
Absolutely. So this is a traditional style. The only thing that wouldn't make it really traditional is that it's got a little bit of carbonation. And historically, however, 8,000 years ago, they didn't have a way to make carbonation. So,
Okay. They could get it to ferment and put off those gases, but they didn't have the vessels to hold it in there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. And what are some of the other ones we're going to get into today, Justin?
So we have 2 meads that we have commercially. One is a peach tea mead. So I basically make a strong peach tea with honey, and then we run that through fermentation. That's a session-style mead. It's 5% alcohol. And then we have our Stigmata, which is a hibiscus session mead, made with hibiscus, rose petals, elderflower, citra hops, and a little bit of blood orange.
Very cool. Now, you told us earlier that the definition for a session mead is a little bit different than beer. We'll talk about that more as we get into the show here. But, Brian, let's find out what's happening in the news.
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, we have a couple of noteworthy openings this week. We've got Brewdog opening their craft beer hotel in Columbus, Ohio. The name of the hotel is the Doghouse. We've talked about this on the show before. You may remember it's attached to a brewing facility, and you can watch them brew beer from your room, and you can drink beer from the in-shower beer fridge. So that's fun. You can basically book rooms now because the Kickstarter folks, they got that as a benefit, the early booking of rooms. They've done all their things, so it's open to you right now. So if you book late enough in the year, you might even see their new sour facility that they're working on. So there might be some photo viewing in your future.
Did you say an in-shower beer fridge?
2 beer fridges in those rooms. There's a in-shower fridge, which may or may not be stocked. You might have to stock that yourself, but the in-room fridge comes stocked with Brewdog. Yes,
different
the
dog
other
there,
dog that
so,
brews.
yeah.
Yes. The other opening we have, recent guests on Beer Guys Radio, New Realm has opened their Virginia Beach location this week. Untapped is showing that they have 12 mainstay beers and 3 small batch beers on. And one of those small batch beers, Tim, is Radagast, their triple IPA, and I'm a little jealous about that. So based upon their Facebook pictures, people will have the opportunity to buy cans of Hazy Like a Fox, Euphonia Pilsner, and Hoplandia IPA there as well. Big Beer just can't catch a break recently, Tim. Once again, so much trouble for them.
This seems like a common theme with you, Brian.
That's right.
Poor Big Beer.
Big Beer just can't catch a break.
Oh,
You're going to hear
man.
that a lot.
I'll hear
Actually,
that a lot.
kind of.
Okay,
that's
fair
intentional.
enough.
Constellation Brands has laid off their craft beer sales team. These layoffs came as a surprise to the people who got the axe over the phone. Going forward, the Corona Modelo import team, will be handling the acquired craft beer brands, which include Funky Buddha, Ballast Point, and Four Corners. So we've seen stuff like this happen before with AB InBev cutting their high-end team. I have to kind of wonder how differently these brands will be treated and handled under Corona's Modelo's import team, and if they would have changed their minds about selling out if they had known that Corona and Modelo was going to be
having import guys selling their beer, huh?
Basically, yes.
It just seems like they're pretty much different beasts, you know? You have a different target audience for those beers.
Yeah, it just seems like you wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. That's like, this is not their thing. Vienna lagers versus, Last Snow,
I'm assuming that Constellation knows their stuff. They're a big company, so I'm sure they know. And if they don't know their stuff, they'll find it out.
They'll find out pretty quickly, yes.
It is time for us to take a break. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, and we'll be back very soon to talk with Monk's Meadery.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
We are Reformation Brewery, celebrating the reformer in you. Locally crafted within the renowned Etowah watershed of Woodstock, Georgia, Reformation creates yeast-forward brews full of aroma and flavor crafted to last. Come see us in beautiful Woodstock, Georgia, for a tour and tasting of unique brews that you can't find anywhere else. Reformation Brewery, set beer free. ReformationBrewery.com.
Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Cannonball coming.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. For more great craft beer info, visit us on the web at beerguysradio.com. We're broadcasting from Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with Justin Schoendorf from Monk's Meadery.
We are indeed, Brian. That is a true statement. Justin, thanks again for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And we have just got into your Peaching to the Choir, correct?
That is correct.
Could you tell us a little bit about Peaching to the Choir?
Yeah, Peaching to the Choir is a session mead. It is 5% alcohol, and it is our peach tea mead. So basically, I make a strong peach tea using honey as the sugar. And then we run that through fermentation, filter it, and then throw it in some bottles.
Okay.
So it's light.
So you make the tea as kind of, for lack of a better term, that's kind of your mash, your wort.
Yep.
A big old thing of tea.
Yeah, we go through a whole lot of tea. I source it from an organic or their rainforest certified tea, and yeah, it's a fun little product. It's got the peach flavors are subtle. And then, but fitting for Georgia. And then the tea, I think, helps balance out the sweetness that you see and that you get in mead.
I was going to ask, do you wind up using just a ton of small little bags, or do you dump it like loose into the mead?
Hundreds and hundreds of tea bags. Brian,
I mean, seriously, I could imagine either way.
I originally bought it loose from the farmer's market, and then I sourced through a company, Serendipity, out of New York. And so they sell it to me in bulk, and we throw it in basically a hop sack. And so we steep that.
Big old bells of tea, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Very cool. So, Justin, we're going to back up just a little bit. You may be aware of this, but we talk about beer a lot on here. So,
yeah.
So mead is something that some of our listeners may have never experienced at all, may have not experimented with. So if someone is brand new to the mead game, what is mead and how does it differ from beer?
Yeah, so a reference could be our website. We have a Mead 101 that talks a little bit about it. But mead is pretty simple, right? So wine is basically grapes. They've been pressed, and your sugar source that you're fermenting creates wine. If you're making cider, you start with apples, you create cider. And beer is actually more complex, right? So you have different grains. The grains have to be malted. They're blended with hops. That creates your sugar source to create beer. And with mead, it's simple. It's just honey and water. So honey is very stable, and you have to reduce the Brix level or the sugar level in honey in order to allow it an environment that the yeast can actually eat it. And depending on what or how you dilute it, you'll end up with different alcohol levels of a final product. And that's basically what mead is. And then you can do different things to flavor it. So you can add grapes or fruits or herbs or apples or whatever you want to do. So it's very versatile.
So I know that, beer, we call it the wort that you get from mashing. And I think wine, is it called must, Great
That is
must.
correct.
Is there a term for the liquid before you pitch your yeast on it?
So I think it's typically called must. However, coming from a beer background, working in a brewery, most of the guys actually refer to it as
Cause a wort.
I was hoping it was going to be called bust for like bee must,
Bee
or
must?
maybe hust. You know,
Ooh. You know what? I'll run it by the
There you
Mead
go.
Makers Association and see if we can coin a word.
Make it happen.
call
Absolutely.
it bust. So what's your background? How did you get into making mead?
I always like to say a series of bad decisions got me where I am today.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry.
But the way that I started actually was brewing beer. So I moved to Atlanta in early 2000, and I lived with 2 roommates. And so instead of getting jobs, we decided to try and make things as cheap as possible. So making our own beer seemed like the right thing to do. Consequently, or at the same time, beer in Georgia, you couldn't buy beer above 6% alcohol. And we were 20-something, and we really wanted beer that was higher than 6% alcohol. So we had to make our own. And so we bought all the kit to do stuff at the house, and we started exploring and trying new things. So we were making double box and whatever.
I was going to ask if you were homebrewing malt liquor, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could say some of it tasted a little bit like malt liquor. And in the back of every beer brewing book, there was a chapter on mead. And so we just kind of jumped into that, thought we'd give it a shot. And we made it similar to the way we made beer, right? So we kind of ran fermentation until it stopped. We carbonated it. We put it in beer bottles. And it was 15% alcohol, and we drank it like you would drink Budweiser. And it was an awesome thing to have before.
I bet it was.
That would be
So
amazing.
that was something I saw it mentioned that your initial batches were like 15%, and you bottled them up like beer. I'm like, man, some young 20-somethings with 15% beer pounding it like macro beers. So
Full on berserker mode.
I'm surprised you remember that much of that time period, actually. So
we took notes.
yes, yeah, take a lot of notes before we start drinking. Take the notes now.
So that's how we got into it. And then I worked for a distributor, and we saw a lot of products that were hitting in the market. And so Smirnoff Ice was coming out, and so it just seemed to make sense that every bar should have a mead on tap in the same way that they, at the time, this is early 2000s, every bar had like one local beer, they had one stout, they had one Hefeweizen. And so we're like, well, they should have one mead. We should be that guy. We'll make the mead. And, hindsight being 2020, at that time, my partner and we thought that the beer industry was crowded here in Georgia because there was 4 breweries.
Crazy.
Yeah,
so
and we were like, hey, we don't want to
there's
get into
no
that business.
Meadery. Don't get it. There's 4 of them out there already, right? Yes.
Yeah. So we went down this path, and here we are.
Okay.
Did you ever plan on opening a brewery? Was that in the works, or was it always kind of like we're heading down the mead path?
The plan has always been to go mead. I thought about, at some point down the road, if you've got the right equipment, doing some beers, but just small scale stuff. The focus being different. It's easy to stand out if you're doing something kind of funky and weird. So we do funky and weird.
I saw that you mentioned you guys hadn't tried commercial meads when you brewed your first meads. Which is why they were 15% bottle carbonated meads and that. But it sounds like when you did try commercial meads, it was much like Brian and I think some of our first meads were not our own necessarily, but homebrew meads.
Yeah.
That others had made, a lot of fruit additions and sweet and such. And when we made ours you can actually, if you chill it enough, you can just stand it up on the table. You don't even need a glass.
That's right.
So it's I don't know the percentage. I think we've targeted 15 to 16.
Yeah, in that range.
Like that. But
we weren't good at taking measurements with that, I don't think.
Yeah, but it's something that I enjoy. It's super sweet, but the flavors are all real nice. But it's something you have to drink in super small quantities.
Sure.
So when we tried the commercial meads, we're like, all right, are we doing this right? Because this is absolutely nothing at all. like what we're doing. But there's a huge variety out there. So there are some of the bigger, sweeter meads. And the commercial still ones, though, they still don't seem like a lot of craft meads to me.
And, when we tried stuff, I think the first thing we tried was Chaucer's. And Chaucer's was nothing like what we did. And it made us believe that what we were doing was the right thing because it was so much more drinkable.
Okay, well, that's a good way to do it. It's better you than the other guys. You're like, all right, we got this. They don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Good stuff. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take a quick break, but we will be back very soon with more from Monk's Meadery.
It's Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock and Alpharetta are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily, so that way you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and coming soon to Duluth in 2018. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WNAE 96.7 FM in Warren, Pennsylvania. Catch Beer Guys Radio every Saturday at 1 a.m. Eastern on WNAE. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with Justin Schoendorf of Monk's Meadery.
Justin, so we have been sipping here your Stigmata. So tell us about Stigmata.
Stigmata is it's one of my favorite products. It is a session mead. It's made, it's blood red in color. It's made with hibiscus, so it gets some color there. It's made with rose petals. It gets some color from that. Elderflower and citra hops. We use blood oranges. And when we actually produce, we actually use some beets, and that actually gives the color a little bit more depth.
Very interesting. So what are some misconceptions people have about mead? I assume there have to be a few.
So, that's a good question. I think lots of people have no idea what they're going to expect. People think that it's going to be really, really thick. And they're often surprised when it's light and it's easy to drink. But then again, there's so many different styles of mead, and so if there's a mead that you try, that doesn't mean that you don't like mead, or you try a mead and you don't like it. That doesn't mean that you don't like it. There's so many different styles out there. There's fortified meads. There's people are barrel aging it. They are carbonating it. It's high gravity. It's low gravity. Making things with fruit. They're making it with herbs. So it's there's an infinite array of different meads that you can make.
So along those lines, speaking of the different styles and varieties and that, on the craft beer side of things, there's a ton of styles already, but there's a lot of them that are kind of evolving, changing, and coming to light. Is that the same with craft mead? Are there new styles that are coming out of the craft mead movement?
Yes, people are exploring and going in all different directions. As far as the names of them, I don't know that any of them were as popular. I don't think so. A Mellow Mel is a low ABV mead. There's a Medlethen, and I can never say that word correctly, and that's made with herbs. And so for me, it's a huge educational problem. So just telling people what mead is an obstacle. So trying to tell them what Mellow Mels and Medlethen and what a pigment is and these different things would be really challenging. So I just go with mead is what I make.
So there's a lot of that's really interesting. So it's huge variety of stuff, and we also learned that there's a maple mead, or I was reminded anyway, Acerglen or Acerglen, something like that, a maple mead. So if you don't care for one variety of mead, you don't know mead. There's a lot more out there, and you give really interesting exotic names to mead. I'm wondering why that is. Any clue as to why the names are the way they are?
I have no idea what the history of
I
it
kind of
is.
threw you under the bus with that one.
It's not like this is a pale mead. This is
right.
This is an international pale mead.
Acerglen, where does that come from?
Yeah.
I was not in charge of the naming. I would go with something much simpler.
You know, that's now that you mention it, Justin, it does remind me. I think most meaderies just say mead, and then they'll list maybe the flavors and stuff that they have in it without saying this is an Acerglen or this is a Piedmont or whatever. They don't really dive into that as much as you do on the beer side of things, as far as the styles, the specific styles go.
I think that's just has to show like where we are in the meat industry. Like we're very, very at the beginning. And the consumer doesn't understand what all that stuff is. So it's an easier way to just say, hey, this is mead made with grapes, or this is a mead made with apples. But I do see, some meaderies are taking the extra effort to explain a little bit of what those things are. At this point, everything that I do, I'm just calling mead.
Very cool. So people commonly associate mead with Renaissance festivals, and that's actually very, very accurate from Monk's Meadery. You have a mead that you can specifically for the Renaissance Festival. How did that come about? That's really an interesting thing.
Well, the Renaissance Festival was a logical place to go to try and sell our mead.
Sure.
They were buying something that came from the UK, and when we first came out, we met with them and said, hey, we're local, we'd love to work with you. And it took them a few years to kind of warm up. They don't like change over there at the Renaissance Festival all the time. And since
You'd
then,
never know that by the way they dress or anything that they...
But they're amazing people, and we've developed a great relationship with them, and it's been an awesome partnership. And so this past year, I was just creating these new session meads, and I gave them the opportunity. That we could put them in cans, and they jumped at the opportunity. They thought this would be kind of a fun thing, and there's one particular bar that's by the Joust. It's a little tent set up, and they sold stuff there. And so on the label, which is a replica of the festival, and so if we can throw it up on the web, or you can find it on my website, it's actually it's not to scale, but it is accurate as far as like where everything is. And there is a flag where that tent is, and it says, "Ye are drinking here."
So as long as you don't have too many of those first, you can actually look at that to navigate.
Absolutely.
Where you're going there,
it is
right?
a very valuable tool. Everyone should have one of these as they walk around the festival.
And
Now,
if you have too many, you just close one eye.
Close one eye, you're good to go, right?
Put the patch over one eye.
Which a lot of the people there may already have that, Brian.
Yes.
So
Or if you're there with your kids, maybe one of them will read it for you.
one of them can navigate for you. There you go. We've got this all figured out. So now, will this pair well with a roast turkey leg?
But of course.
See, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, on the subject of Renaissance fairs, though, we've noticed a lot of the craft mead makers that we talk to kind of shun the Renaissance fair. And maybe a comment like, this isn't the mead you get at the Renaissance fair. Like, I guess maybe what has been available at the Renaissance fairs is not what they consider great mead. Is your partnership kind of a step towards helping to change those perceptions?
I think so. I get compliments actually all the time from folks that are there. They're like, that will tell me, hey, I was at the festival, and thank you for switching out the old stuff, and I'm glad that we're able to get something that's local and that's better here at the festival. So that's awesome. But I actually think that's changing around the country. I hear a lot of meaderies or local domestic meaderies are supplying our festivals versus buying some of these meads that were from the UK or Europe.
Sure. And I guess that makes sense. As mead grows, as the craft movement as a whole grows, mead's been popular at Renaissance fairs long before craft mead started becoming popular here. So it would make sense as it grew, Brian.
Yes.
You know, Brian's actually almost ready for a Renaissance fair. He wouldn't need much dressing up to be out there.
You might have to braid the beard or something like that.
A little bit of braids, and you'd be good to go. So we've got a Viking helmet.
I need a Viking horn to drink the mead out of.
You should get Brian to go out and walk around with your mead at the next Renaissance fair.
I'd be honored to have you come with me.
There you go.
I can be talked into it.
I do have a drinking horn.
All right. Well, I think I'm sold.
We've got this set.
You have to braid your own beard.
All right.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we've got a great plan there then. Absolutely.
That sounds wonderful to me. I'm in. When is the next Renaissance Fair? Does anybody know? Did it happen already this year?
As a matter of fact, I know. It starts about the middle of April.
Okay.
And it runs until the beginning of June.
Cool.
Okay. Have you been to one before?
A long time ago.
Okay.
A really long time ago. Pre-beer.
I've never been. So I'm curious to see. I see the pictures online and things like that, but that's as far as I've gone so far.
They put on a really good show. The Georgia Renaissance Festival specifically draws a big crowd. It's one of the biggest festivals in the Southeast, and they might get 30,000 people a day.
Wow.
That's big crowds. They're able to spend a few extra bucks to get a better show, and so the jousting is really state of the art, and there's some fun acts there.
That's something. A few meads, Brian, you're good to go, man.
I'd be ready, yeah. After a couple, yeah.
Good deal. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take a quick break, but we will be back very soon with more from Monk's Meadery.
Are you thinking about opening a brewery in the Atlanta area? If so, take a look at the Park at Georgetown. This unique community will feature a collection of restaurants as well as a craft brewery located within the new JW Homes luxury development, Dunwoody Green. Conveniently located less than half a mile from I-285, this enclave of restaurants will be the gathering place in Dunwoody. Trim & Associates, the developer of the Park at Georgetown, wants to talk to you. For more information, call Stephen St. Paul at 404-256-2960, extension 5. That's 404-256-2960, extension 5.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
The Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Make sure to follow us on the socials, Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with Justin Schoendorf of Monk's Meadery.
Justin, we are enjoying another one of your meads here, and this is one that's not out in the market yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is a prototype.
Okay.
Working out the final details.
All right. And this one is called Abstinence in the Abbey.
Correct.
Can you tell us about this mead?
So the Abbey part comes from it being a Belgian yeast strain. So the inspiration was a Belgian beer. One of my favorite beers is the Golden Monkey. So I basically looked at clone recipes, tried to recreate that the best I could. Clearly, I don't have a grain bill the way that they do. I don't need candy sugar because I got plenty of sugar and honey. Right. And so there's grains of paradise, there's orange peel, there's coriander, and it's a Belgian yeast, and 2 types of hops. And I'm really pleased with the way this turned out, and I'm doing a few little tweaks, and we're going to present this style or this thing to the distributor hopefully in a week or 2, and hopefully we'll hit stores in the next couple months.
This has been my favorite that we've tried so far today, and it's got a beery, I'm going to say beery quality about it. You can tell that the Belgian is there. The hops, I mentioned to you off air, Justin, that I expected some bitterness because you boiled the hops in your, for lack of a better term, your wort, correct?
Correct.
So
or must or bust.
Mustard
bust?
The bust. Let's call it
That's
the
right.
bust.
That's the bust.
Yeah, we used nugget hops. We boiled them for 60 minutes in the bust.
Okay, there we go.
And then Mount Hood hops I threw in at the last 10 minutes, so flame out hops there with the rest of the ingredients.
Okay, it's not, but I expected a little more bitterness than what's in there, and it's not. You know, you've got the hop presence there. There's a little bit of bitterness, but all in all, Brian, it's tasty.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
I think we could do that.
There we go.
could do that. So I've been thinking about this ever since I started thinking about you being on the show. What is the connection between monks and mead? There's got to be something because you're calling it Monk's Mead.
Yeah, we have got a little blurb on the website that kind of talks about this, and it talks about monks that were they handled the bees, and when they had surplus honey, they would use that to make alcohol that was used in religious ceremonies. And how much of that is true and what's made up, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was just that we liked alliterations, and so monks and mead just kind of made sense. But historically, monks have made lots of different alcohol, mead, wine, beer, and so we felt like there was a fit.
And the term honeymoon is expected to come from mead, but I don't think that's monk. That's Vikings. I mean, were there Viking monks possibly?
It could be.
Or could have been.
Yeah, I mean,
so maybe it's all related, Brian.
Well, honeymoon for sure comes from mead.
Right.
Yeah.
So mead, being the oldest form of alcohol, was used in religious ceremonies. It was used for a new couple, and so when you got married, the goal was to have children, and so to encourage behavior that would produce said child for the cycle of a moon, that you would give a couple a month's supply of mead to encourage that behavior.
I don't think that's recommended anymore.
The original
actually.
Spanish fly.
Right, yes.
Is that how that works?
A month's worth of drinking and attempting to procreate.
That's the goal, or
right,
that's what my mom tells me.
Well, it's gonna work out well if you continue down the line of producing meads that are inspired by Belgian beers. I mean, Monk's Mead. It's really on the nose. It's really gonna work out for you. But yes.
So Justin, your partnership, where your meadery is located, you're an Atlanta-based company. I don't know, is it contract or gypsy?
It's more gypsy.
Okay.
So I've got all my own licensing, and I'm very involved in the process. So we just moved to Southern Brewing Company in Athens, and so the folks over there have been amazing for us. I invested in some fermentation tanks that we've set up over there. They had a little extra space. They've got some extra capacity, and it's been great. They're an amazing resource. Southern Brewing Company has a great Rolodex of different yeasts that they employ, and they've actually named a couple of their beers after it. So Cherokee Rose,
right? Exactly.
So it's pretty cool, and part of that is their relationship with UGA. So some of the guys over there have helped them out, and I'm not sure exactly how all this goes down, but I believe they've got 150, 180 different yeast varieties that they have isolated from different places that they are storing at 10 degrees Kelvin or
Big
whatever
exactly.
you do.
You know, the guys over there are super cool. The whole crew at Southern Brewing is. We brewed a beer with them about a year ago now with an online forum I'm on, Reddit ATL beer. Soured it, fermented in a barrel, soured it up, has peaches and apricots going into it soon. But as a home brewer, they made the offer to me. I was trying to propagate some yeast on my own. I got the little test vials and plucked some fruits and flowers from the garden. And they're like, if you get something that shows potential, bring it over here. We'll run it through the lab for you. You know, we'll check it out. We can step it up and turn it into something that you can make a beer with. I'm like, guys, that is such a cool offer to do. I ended up not getting anything viable, but you know, it was a cool offer for them had I got something viable.
That is very cool. So I've noticed a consistent thing across the board. The meads that we have tried today, they've all been carbonated. Why carbonation? Why are we carbonating our meads here?
That's a great question. And so traditionally, meads haven't been carbonated. I find that CO2 creates a carbonic acid, and that acidity helps balance out the sweetness that is inherently in mead or in honey. And so I think it makes for a better balanced product. And so for everything that I produce, I always like it better when it's carbonated. And it's rare that I try a mead that isn't carbonated that I really, really like. And so this is kind of the direction I've gone currently. Not to say that I will never do a still, but I really, really lean towards the carbonated.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yes, if it's adding balance to it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
to
and
me.
it's not heavy carbonation. You know, it's not
no,
like
not at all.
a saison or a champagne or something that's super effervescent, but it is there and helps carry the flavors a little bit.
Yeah,
like
that's the thought.
So you've made a lot of different interesting meads over the years. We've tried a few here that have been quite interesting. So are all of those available right now?
Everything that we brought today, or that I brought today, is available with the exception of the Abstinence and the Abbey, the Belgian-inspired mead.
Okay, couple of months there, right?
Hopefully
Okay.
soon. So we had our regular Monk's Mead, our flagship, our Peach into the Choir, and we had Stigmata.
What's coming up next from Monk's Mead?
So this Abstinence, and then I'm working on a little project with some friends at Java Vino for the Strong Beer Fest. It comes up in December, and so I was brainstorming with my friend Steve over at Java Vino, and we're going to do a coffee mead. With a little...
I knew you'd like that, Brian.
With a little vanilla, maybe some cinnamon, some cocoa nibs. Haven't figured out exactly what this is going to be, but it'll be easily above 8% alcohol, so I'll fit... I'll get myself into that festival.
Sounds very interesting.
It sounds like an aphrodisiac to me.
Sounds like
I know
good
I'm
stuff.
excited.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
Well, Justin, if folks want to keep up with all the cool stuff happening with Monk's Meadery, what is the best way for them to do that?
Facebook, Instagram. I'm not super active on Twitter. I'll work on that for you.
All right. Facebook and Instagram. Those are the popular ones now. So
Sure,
that
that's
should
the
work
thing.
out.
Is that what the kids are doing?
I think so. They're Snapchat and all kinds
That's
of stuff.
right.
No, I think Snap took a dive.
Did it? See, I'm not hip or cool, either one. So
Cool news for me is that I just got licensed. I can now ship to anyone within the state of Georgia.
Okay.
So you can buy direct from me, which is awesome. And I'm available in like 38 or 40 states.
It's a pretty good number of them then. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Just a few.
ratio.
It's most of the states.
Very cool. Awesome. Justin, thank you so much for joining us, sharing your mead and your story. We really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much for having me here today.
Absolutely. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Make sure to tune in next week when we're gonna mix it up a little bit, Brian, and we're gonna be talking with Riverbend Malt House. We're gonna be talking craft malts, so that should be a fun show. Please remember to subscribe to Beer Guys Radio on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app, and please do leave us a review. It helps more people to find the show, gets us out there more, and helps us to create more shows for you to enjoy. If you really enjoy the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Our patrons get early access to all shows, exclusive content, and some other cool swag. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers.